Some cars are just more than cars. They're legends. And the Toyota Supra MK4, oh yeah, it's right at the top of that list. It's this roar that you could hear all the way from the streets of Tokyo to the highways of Hollywood. It's a name that basically defined an entire era of car culture. So today, we're going to get under the hood of this legend and figure out what makes it so special. But here's the thing, the craziest part of this whole story. This icon, this absolute giant of the tuning world, was a total flop when it was new. Seriously, it just sat in showrooms collecting dust. Which brings us to the big question we're going to tackle. How in the world does a car that nobody wanted to buy become a priceless global legend? All right, to figure that out, we're going to follow the Supra's incredible journey. First, we'll look at its crazy ambitious goal to take on Porsche. Then we'll get into the real secret sauce, that unbreakable 2JZ engine. We'll see how the rest of the car was built to match, and then how Hollywood gave it a second life. We'll dig into why this amazing car couldn't sell, and finally, how it rose up to become the undisputed king of JDM. Okay, so let's rewind. Every great story has a bold beginning, right? Well, back in the early 90s, Toyota wasn't just trying to build another sports car. No, they were aiming way, way higher. They were gunning for the giants. See, the Supra name had been around for a while. It started out in the 70s as a cushier, bigger version of the Celica. Then through the 80s, started getting a little more serious about performance. But in 1993, everything changed. With the fourth generation, the A80, Toyota basically said, okay, playtime's over, it's time for a revolution. And this quote pretty much says it all. The goal wasn't just to build a fun car. The mission, straight up, was to build a Japanese supercar that could go toe-to-toe with Porsche. I mean, think about how bold that is. The stakes were absolutely massive. Now, if you're going to challenge a giant like Porsche, you better come prepared. You need a secret weapon. And the Supra's secret weapon, well, it was a masterpiece of engineering. We have to talk about the heart of this beast, the 2JZ engine. So the official name is the 2JZ GTE. It's a 3-liter, twin-turbo, inline-6. But honestly, those are just numbers on a page. The reason this engine is so famous is simple. It is nearly impossible to break. Toyota didn't just build an engine here. They built a fortress. So what made it so tough? Well, Toyota just went completely over the top. It has a super strong cast iron block, a forged steel crankshaft. Everything inside was ridiculously beefy. The bottom end of this engine was built like a tank. It was designed from the ground up to handle insane amounts of power without even breaking a sweat. And it was smart, too. The Supra used what's called a sequential twin-turbo system. The best way to think about it is like a relay race for power. At low speeds, a small turbo spins up instantly, so there's no lag. But then, right around 4,500 RPM, a much bigger turbo takes over. And you get this massive, incredible surge of power that just pulls and pulls all the way to the red line. So here's the payoff for all that crazy engineering. Tuners quickly found out that with the stock parts, the stuff that came from the factory, the 2JZ could handle over 800 horsepower. Some people even pushed it past 1,000. For a regular production engine from the 90s, it was unheard of. It was literally a blank canvas for power. But look, a legendary engine is nothing without a chassis that can handle it. Toyota knew the Supra couldn't just be a drag strip monster. It had to handle the corners too. So they engineered the whole car to be a complete package. And they really threw everything they had at it. We're talking advanced double wishbone suspension for incredible grip, a near-perfect 50-50 weight balance for amazing stability, and a smart differential to get all that power to the ground. For the 1990s, this was seriously high-tech stuff that made the Supra just as agile as it was powerful. And of course, they wrapped it all in that absolutely iconic body. It's smooth, it's muscular, but it's not over the top. And that massive rear wing, that wasn't just for looks. It actually worked, pushing the car onto the road at high speeds. The design was so ahead of its time that, honestly, it still looks modern today. Okay, so what do we have? An engineering marvel with a timeless look. But it was still kind of a niche car, for the real car nerds. But what happened next took the Supra out of the niche and turned it into a global superstar. All it took was one line in a movie. I owe you a 10-second car. That line and the bright orange Supra that came with it changed everything. The 2001 movie The Fast and the Furious took this car from the underground tuning scene and put it on a giant billboard for the entire world to see. After that movie, everyone knew what a Supra was. And at the very same time, something else huge was happening: video games.
For a whole generation of us who couldn't drive yet, games like Gran Turismo and Need for Speed were everything. And the Supra, it was almost always one of the best cars in the game. Millions of us got to build, tune, and race our dream Supra right from our living rooms.
So let's recap. We've got a brilliant car, a bulletproof engine, and it's now a pop culture icon. You'd think Toyota couldn't build them fast enough, right? Well, this is where the story takes a sharp turn, because for all its greatness, the Supra was a complete and utter sales failure. Yeah, it was pretty much a perfect storm of bad luck. For one, it was expensive, especially when you could go buy a big V8 American muscle car for way less money. The strong Japanese yen made it even pricier outside of Japan. Plus, insurance for sports cars was getting crazy expensive, and the whole market for cars like this was starting to shrink. It was just the wrong car at the wrong time. So, by 2002, Toyota gave up. The Supra was officially dead. But here's the funny thing about legends. They don't really die. They just kind of wait for the rest of the world to catch up. And while it was gone, the Supra's myth just grew bigger and bigger, setting the stage for one of the greatest comebacks in car history. And this right here is the ultimate proof. A car that Toyota struggled to sell for $40,000 can now easily fetch over $150,000 if it's in good shape. I mean, just let that sink in. The car that failed in the showroom became a treasure. The market finally understood what it was. So how did it become the ultimate JDM legend? It was this perfect mix of everything. You had the unbreakable engine that gave it street cred, you had the brilliant engineering that made it a true performer, you had endless tuning potential that made it a gearhead's dream, you had that timeless design, and of course, that unforgettable star turn in pop culture that made it famous forever.
When you put it all together, no other car from that time managed to capture all of that magic in one package. The Supra isn't just a car, it's the symbol of that golden age of Japanese performance, a time when engineering and ambition were everything.
And that kind of leaves us with a big question, doesn't it? In this new era of electric cars with their silent, instant power, you have to wonder, was the Supra a once-in-a-lifetime thing? A perfect storm of incredible mechanics, cultural timing, and raw analog soul that maybe, just maybe, we'll never see again? It's definitely something to think about.